Now let's create a super user so we can log into the admin and start creating some test trips and notes. So we could say python manage.py create super user and just enter in whatever info you want. dom@sup.com. This is just on our local computer. Password 123, password 123. It's not secure, but again, this is just local computer, so it's okay. Super user created successfully. Now we can run the server and add some trips via the admin, manage.py run server. Pull localhost 8000 back up in our browser, and we can go to /admin and we can log in. I'm zoomed in a bit, but we can log in here, use your username and password that you set, and we see our notes and our trips. So I'll go ahead and add a couple of trips here. We'll say the city is Barcelona, country, maybe SP. Start date, we can just add this back in time. And the owner is DJVAC. So here we are seeing this foreign key to the user table. And here we only have one user, which is the user you just created, the super user. So we can select that for now, save and add another. I'm just going to add two. We'll just say Chicago, US. Start date sometime in August, and again the owner is that user you just created. Save. So now let's create a view so we can see all of our trips. So go back into your code, you can minimize the terminal and go into our trip views.py and create a view. So let's import our models. So from .models import trip, and we'll just import note, and then we can create another view, and this time we'll just use a function-based view. We could use a class-based view for this, but we'll just show how you can do it either way, and we'll call this trips list that takes the request, and we'll say trips equals trip.objects.all. So we'll just grab all the objects for now, and we'll create a context variable, which is a dictionary that has trips that are equal to trips above. And then we can return a template. So we'll just return render, pass in the request. We'll create this template at trip/trips list.html, and then we'll pass in the context. So that's our view. So we grab all the trips, we save them in our context variable, and then we render out trips list.html and pass in the context. So now let's go ahead and set up this URL. So in our trip app.urls.py, we can just shift alt down arrow to duplicate this above, and we'll say this is at dashboard. So this will be like a dashboard view. It will use that view we just created, trips list, and we have to import it from .views, and we'll name this one trip-list. And remember the trailing comma. So the final thing now is to create the template. So under template, trip, create a new file, and we'll call this trip list.html. We'll say h1 my trips, and then we can just render out an unordered list and loop through our trips. So for trip in trips, we can end for like so, and then we can create a list item for each trip and just output the trip.country and the trip.city. So if we save that and make sure our server's still running, we can go back to our browser and go ahead over to dashboard. And a template does not exist, trips_list. And that's, I believe, in the view because we put trips/trips_list. And here this is just called templates trip. So I keep doing this where I use the plural form of trip. So it should be singular, trip. Now if we go back to the browser and refresh, and I actually did the same thing here. So this should also be trip list, not trips list, like so. And now it works. So now, once we have all of these trip versus trips things figured out, we're saying my trips, and then we have Spain, Barcelona, and US, Chicago. Awesome. So the next thing we're going to dive into is actually user authentication. So we're going to be getting it set up so that users can register, create accounts, and log in. So this is the exciting part. Look forward to seeing you in the next videos.